And so that the title of that book gave us the idea for the title of this retreat. So the first talk is going to be Why Do Cities Matter? But the whole theme is just going to be a bunch of TED Talks on why does blank matter. And there's, we could do tons of different things. We picked a few things, and hopefully it'll be good. So let's see. Yeah, I'm going to start my stopwatch now. We'll see how this goes. We got 18 minutes to make a case for why cities matter. All right, here we go. Okay, so you heard the stats, right? And we could throw tons more stats out about that, about how the cities across the world are growing. Every day, 18,000 people across the world move into a city. That's 5.5 million people every month. So a new San Francisco Bay Area is created every month. Okay? In the next 20 years in China alone, their current urban population will grow by 350 million people, projections say. That's more than the current total population of the United States. So cities are exploding across the world. In the United States, we saw this happening at the beginning of the 20th century. There was some decline in cities in the 70s and 80s, but since the 90s, cities across the city have been growing. People moving back into the urban core. Cities, you can't ignore them, and the church especially can't ignore cities, right? So, how are Christians going to think about the city? I'm one of those people that's migrated to a city, that's moved into a city, right? I didn't start there. In fact, growing up, when I would go visit my grandparents in a town half an hour away that was about 1,500 people, I thought I was in the big city. I drove by Philadelphia recently. I remembered a vacation to visit my cousin who lived in Philadelphia, and I was scared to death. We went on a walk. I came up to a crosswalk, and there was a car that stopped, and I thought for sure that car was going to kill us. It was going to hit us, because everybody in the city is just mean and nasty, and they don't. And that's just my impression. So that's where I come from. Let me show you where I come from. That's my house, and these things are not other houses, okay? That's a barn, and that's not a pond to swim in. That's actually a big lagoon of hog feces. So that's my childhood. That's the first 18 years of my life is there, okay? Zoom out a little bit. You can see there. I do have some neighbors. This was an open field most of my life. This is a new house. This guy lives back in the middle of the woods. We don't know what goes on back there. Keep zooming out a little bit. There's just tons of green space, right? This is my uncle. Okay. This is the farm where my grandma grew up. So this is a little off topic, but a little bit of me. Zoom out more. I mean, this is my surroundings. Here's Rusheville. The budding metropolis of Rusheville. Maybe you hear me talk about that. That's the town for me. Like, you're going to go to town, you're going to go to Rusheville. 1,000 people, half of them related to me somehow. Zoom out more. I mean, so this is where I grew up. Now, this is where I live now. Very different. Let's get closer. You see the dot. That's my house. Zoom in. Zoom in. Zoom in. Wow. Okay. That's very different, right? So you see where I've come from and where I am now. So I've come from this, and I'm at this. What's the biggest difference? Neighbors, right? And that kind of gets at the heart of what a city is. There's a guy named Ed Glazer. He's a Harvard economist. He says at the heart of cities are the absence of physical space between people. And this illustrates that well, right? That's what a city is. And for him, that's a good thing. That's not like, oh, people are too tight, that's a bad thing. Actually, he's saying that's actually a really great thing. The subtitle of his book, The Triumph of the City, How Our Greatest Invention Makes Us Richer, Smarter, Greener, Healthier, and Happier. And this book makes a solid case that cities are wonderful. They're the best thing for people. So let me talk a little bit about how cities work. Cities work in three ways. Cities are magnets. They're amplifiers and they're engines. So really fast, cities attract people. Who do they attract? They attract especially the aspirational. If you want to make it, in your field, if you want to go up, you go to the city, right? They attract the marginalized, the people that don't fit in homogenous rural and village and even suburban life, that may seek refuge, find people that are like them. You move to the city. The marginalized come to the city. And also the explorational, especially the people that are looking for adventure, for fun. So cities are magnets that attract people, and then they're amplifiers. You get all those people together in these two things that urbanists call clustered density and connective diversity. So clustered density is tons of people on top of each other. And that actually is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. In the state of Illinois, 41% of the population lives in Cook County. Cook County only accounts for 1.7% of the land in the state. So why, we got all this green space all around us, why are people choosing to live on top of each other? Because amazing things happen in the city. When you get connective diversity and cluster density together, it acts as an amplifier, and amazing things happen. So what happens next? The city as an engine. And Buzzard, the guys who wrote that book, Why Cities Matter, they say, as magnets, cities attract all types of people. As amplifiers, they provide an environment for the flourishing and sharpening of their citizens. And as engines, they take the collective talents, skills, creativity of their citizens and translate them into world-driving technology, industry, and cultural development. So you got the creativity, the competition, and the cooperation that happens in a city. All that kind of collides and comes together to breed innovation and ideas and industry like nowhere else. So cities work that way. Now, this phenomenon of cities, people moving to cities and cities working this way is biblical. So I'm going to talk about that for a little bit. That cousin that lived down the road, I showed you his house. He passed through Chicago a couple weeks ago, and we were talking, and he was going back to rural, small-town life, and he was just amazed that I lived in the city. Little Nathan lives in the city. He's my older cousin. And he said, you know what, the thing I've never understood about the Bible, it's just dumbfounded me, is how it's repeatedly so positive about the city. Like, that just can't compute in his mind. But what he did understand, he reads the Bible and he knows the Bible's city positive, right? It just doesn't make sense to him, but I said, well, that's it. The Bible is city positive, and because the cities are important and great places to live. He just sees Chicago as the murder capital of the world, right? But when you look at the Bible, we can't go everywhere, but Psalm 122 is a psalm that's praising Jerusalem. Jerusalem, it's the joy of the whole world. It's this beautiful place. It says, Jerusalem is built like a city that's closely compacted together. That's a good thing. So cities in the Bible are places of refuge, they're places of safety, they're places of security. You've probably heard somebody say the Bible begins in a garden and ends in a city. Right? That's a really helpful sort of overarching sweep of the Bible. But I want to even take that further. What do you think of when you think of the garden? What do you think of when you think of the Garden of Eden? You think of this. This is essentially a national park. This is Zion National Park. Is that paradise? Is that what Adam and Eve were put in and lived in? Or do you think of something like this? The Garden of Versailles in Paris. Well, of the two, it's more like this. You study ancient Near Eastern documents and culture and backgrounds and all that stuff, you see that gardens in the ancient Near East were walled, they were heavily cultivated, they probably had buildings in them. So in a sense, Eden is a city waiting to happen. It's a garden with just two people in it, with this mandate to be fruitful and multiply. So make more people to populate this and expand it and grow it. Make more people that are going to be architects and engineers and builders and all that stuff. Meredith Kline is a theologian. He says this. He says, the city is not to be regarded as an evil invention of fallen man. The ultimate goal set before humanity at the very beginning was that human culture should take city form. There should be an urban structuring of human historical existence. The cultural mandate given at creation was a mandate to build the city. So when we think about paradise, we shouldn't think about untouched primitivism. It's this place that's to be cultivated and rearranged and then expanded and grown, and essentially cities, to become a city. And so when you get to the end of the Bible, Revelation chapter 21 says we're all going to a city, right? And that city, when you look at the details, it's the Garden of Eden, populated and cultivated. That's what it is. The river, the tree of life, the river, I mean, it's that. So, we're going to an eternal existence in a city. And the Bible is radically pro-city. Let me talk just a little bit about some more of the good of cities and how they work. Cities, in their essence, are the best place for human flourishing. The good life is supposed to be the city. I'm not going to be able to fully make the case for this here, but there's a guy named Eric Jacobson. He's written this book called Sidewalks in the Kingdom. If you want to read it, it's a great introduction to this. He's a Christian, and he's part of this larger movement that includes non-Christians. It's called New Urbanism. And basically, architects, city planners kind of saying, hey, the last 50, 60 years weren't really that great. You know, the rise of the automobile has some dubious effects on culture and society. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for community. It's not good for our use of time and resources. And basically, they're saying we can do better than this. This isn't the American dream, right? Aesthetically, it's not great. All sorts of reasons it's not great. And a classic way that this is described and explained is to think about a pizza. Like, if you look at this, does it make your mouth water? If you're really hungry, maybe. I guess that doesn't really look like sausage right there. But, so you got the pieces of the pizza, you got the dough, you got the mushrooms, the onions, the cheese, the sausage, the sauce. When you sit down at a meal, you don't want people to bring out this to you and you just eat little bits of it. But this is essentially how the suburbs work. You live here, you got to drive over here to go shop, you got to drive over here to go to school, you got to drive over here to go to church, you got to drive here. It's all zoned, and the zones are split apart. So you got residential zones, you got commercial zones, you got parking lots galore, and you got to drive everywhere to get everywhere because it's all broken apart, right? Whereas in the city, you have a pizza, which means you take a slice of anything and you got everything pretty much that you need there. This is how they're supposed to work, right? And it's called mixed use, walkable communities. That's the stuff you'll hear in New Urbanism. So you can walk everywhere you need to go and get everything that you need. I tried to take some videos on my car driving through slices of the UIC area, and it didn't really turn out. But one time I just started at Halstead and Taylor and just drove all the way to Racine. And you think of all the things that you pass through. You got a university, you got a place of worship, you got a bank, you got a tattoo parlor, you got restaurants, you got high-end restaurants, you got low-end, Jimmy John's, you got coffee shops, places to hang out, places to live, right? So thinking about pizza, you recognize where this is. This is Domenzo's, right? And right above it is places to live. A couple in our church, the Matlacks, used to live right up here, right? And so it's walkable, it's mixed use, and that's good. That's good. Here's just another example. Where would you rather watch a baseball game? Yeah? Wrigley Field, right? Why do people flock there, even when they lose all the time? We love it because it's a neighborhood baseball park. It's nestled in a city. There's some parking, but it's really hard to find. Most people get there on the red line, get off at the Addison stop. There's tons of restaurants and bars all around. It's just the atmosphere is great. We love Wrigley Field, right? Do you want to go to a baseball game there? Not so much. That's Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. It's just surrounded by a sea of concrete. Qualcomm Stadium used to be where the Padres played. They don't play there anymore, thank goodness. But the Chargers still play there. It's ugly, right? So, I mean, that's one example. We could do lots more, but I got the time ticket. Okay. Okay. So strategically, let's think strategically for a second. The New Testament era, when the church was born in the first century, was highly urban. After that, fall of the Roman Empire, Dark Ages, feudalism, things get kind of bad, but then we're having a resurgence of urbanism right now. So it's becoming more today like it was in the book of Acts. And how did the church grow? Sociologist Rodney Stark says, all ambitious missionary movements are or soon become urban. If the goal is to make disciples of all nations, missionaries need to go where there are many potential converts, which is precisely what Paul did, right? His missionary journeys took him to major cities such as Antioch, Corinth, and Athens, with only occasional visits to smaller communities such as Iconium and Laodicea. No mention is made of him preaching in the countryside. So you have AD 33, birth of the church. You got a small band of people, 120, grows 3,000, 5,000, but pretty small, definite minority. By AD 100, less than 25,000 Christians in the Roman Empire, in the whole world. By AD 310, 20 million Christians. That's a massive explosion, right? How did that happen? It happened through cities, right? The word pagan, we usually think of, you go to the city, that's full of pagans, but the word pagan comes from the Latin word for farmer. So the rural people were the people that weren't reached, the cities were reached, and that's how Christianity exploded to become a major world force. Listen, we want churches wherever there are people, right? So we're not denigrating any place or people. No people are better or worse. We got to get the gospel everywhere. But listen to what Al Mohler says, president of the Southern Seminary. He says, the cities are where the people are. In the course of less than 300 years, our world will have shifted from one in which only 3% of people live in cities to one in which 80% are resident in urban areas. If the Christian church does not learn new modes of urban ministry, we will find ourselves on the outside looking in. The gospel of Jesus Christ must call a new generation of committed Christians into these teeming cities. As these new numbers make clear, there really is no choice. The church has to be there, and the church is grossly underrepresented in the cities. Cities matter. And God has called you. He's determined the exact time and place where you live. He's called you to the city of Chicago. He's called you to this church. Our church mission is to enjoy and proclaim the good news in our great city. That's who we are. That's what God's called us to, and it's exciting. And I realize I've painted a largely positive picture of cities because I believe that they are at their core positive things. But we all know the reality is there are challenges and hard things about city living. And I don't want to be naive about that or brush that under the rug, right? There's hard things about it. Cities act as amplifiers, so they're going to amplify human sin, right? As well, not just common grace. And so it's going to be hard. But I would say most of the things that you find hard or distasteful about cities are not actually cities themselves. It's sin and what sin's done in cities. And so to flee just because of that would just be more sin. I'm going to try to get away from sin, get away from sinners, right? That's just more sin. And wherever you go, you're going to find sin, just different varieties of sin. It may look sanitized in some ways, but that could be just even more deadly. So there's sin everywhere. Listen, if cities are at their core the best place to live, the best place for human flourishing, God's design and intent, the most strategic place, most strategic place to do ministry, then that shouldn't, the sin in the cities, the sin that's marred our cities, shouldn't drive us away from the cities, but should drive us deeper into love and engagement with our city. I really want to stick to the 18 minutes, so I'm going to stop there. I got another really great quote, and really fast. Change is possible. Where's this at? Where do you think? Any guesses? London. That's London. Where's this at?
North side.
London. Listen, if you drive it all block on Millar Street in Lawndale, where a bunch of Christians moved in about 30 years ago and said, we're here, we're putting down roots, we're staying, that block looks like a block of Lincoln Park. And this is right by the Lawndale Health Center. People take care of the property and it spreads. The city can't change. We got to trust God. We got to trust Him. I'm going to go over, okay? And trust Him. His eye is on the sparrow, right? He's sovereign over everything that happens for our good. There was a family in our church, not throwing them under the bus or anything, but a bullet went through their window. And that and various other reasons, they ended up moving to the suburbs. And I love them and I understand them, okay. And that's fine. And we reach the suburbs by being in the city. We want to embrace that too, because we send people out. But right after that happened, I was talking to another pastor who, for many years, was a pastor in a rural setting, out in the middle of this kind of area, had a church and a parsonage right next to it. He was sitting on a Saturday evening in his living room with his family. All of a sudden, a hunter slug comes through the window and lands right in front of his kids. And I'm just thinking, it can happen anywhere. God, you're in charge, you're sovereign, I trust you, and we need churches here. Tim Keller, cities remain just as strategic, if not more so, than they were in the days of Paul and the early church when Christian mission was predominantly urban. I would argue that there's nothing more critical for the evangelical church today than to emphasize and support urban ministry. The need is great, as is the cost. Ministry in city centers is considerably more expensive on a per capita basis than it is away from urban core, but the church can no longer ignore the profound and irreversible changes occurring in the world today. If Christians want to reach the unreached, we must go to cities. To reach the rising generations, we must go to the cities. To have any impact for Christ on the creation of culture, we must go to the cities. To serve the poor, we must go to the cities. And he says many people who are not naturally comfortable in the city will have to follow the example of Abraham. Abraham was called to leave his familiar culture, become a pilgrim, seeking the city of God. And while Christians should not deliberately seek difficulty for its own sake, can we not follow the example of the incarnate Christ, who did not live in places where he was comfortable, but went where he was useful? Can we not face difficulty for his sake, embracing both the difficulties and the riches of city living? Thank you.